Good morning, guys. We are going to go over the respiratory system for this week. We have been going over body systems. We so far have hit the skeletal system, the muscular system, the nervous system, the circulatory system, and now we're going to hit the respiratory system. Um, so what is the respiratory system about? As you can see through some of these pictures, it's mainly about the breathing and the lungs and different things. What we're going to focus on today, if I can get this up, hold on just a second, is what is the main function of the respiratory system and how is it structured? What are the main organs associated with the system? So the respiratory system is a series of organs which take in oxygen and give off carbon dioxide. That's the primary function. The primary organ is the lungs that carries out the exchange of the gases as we breathe. So the main organ is our lungs, and a lot of people associate that with the respiratory system because when you breathe, your lungs expand and contract. Some things that you don't think of as being part of the respiratory system or even part of any system is your nasal and oral cavities. That's your nose and your mouth. It begins here. When you breathe in, you're either going to breathe in through your nose or your mouth. The air is moistened, warmed, and filtered as it enters the body. So water or saliva from your mouth and mucus from your nose moisten that air that comes in so it's not so dry. It's warmed because of our body temperature, and we filter it out. A lot of our stuff is filtered out in our mouth and our nose. That's why it's important to, brush your teeth, brush your whole mouth, your nasal cavities, blow your nose and stuff, because of all that bacteria and sometimes, I don't want to say diseases, but viruses get trapped in that mucus and we need to get them out of our body. So when you breathe in, the reason we have boogers, I guess you would say, is that a lot of the boogers trap our viruses, they trap our bacteria or dust particles that come in out of the air, so we don't need those in our lungs. The pharynx, or the throat, is another part of the respiratory system. It's the passage that leads from the cavities of the nose and the mouth to the larynx. Both food and air passes through here, so it's part of the respiratory system and the digestive system. And so is your nose, or not your nose, but so is your mouth, part of the digestive system. It's made up of three parts: the nasal pharynx, the oral pharynx, and the laryngeal pharynx. And you can see they're all open. So this is why, if you take a drink of water or something and you laugh and it comes back up your nose, because all that's opened back in the pharynx. Also, I had this friend in high school that could take a needle and thread it through her nose and her mouth and floss with it. I know that's kind of disgusting, but it's all because of this openings from your nasal cavities to your throat. Drainage, if you are sick and you have drainage, that's why it goes down the back of your throat and causes sometimes your throat to be sore. All of this is open to each other. Larynx and the epiglottis. The larynx is a hollow muscular organ which holds the vocal cords. It's our voice box which produces sound, and how we produce sound is the air. When we think about talking, air goes across our vocal cords and makes the sound. When it's higher pitched, the vocal cords are stretched tighter and they vibrate quicker. When we're deeper, the vocal cords are loosened and they vibrate slower. They're not as tight. So some of the boys will go through a voice change, and that is mainly your vocal cords loosening, so your voice goes deeper. The epiglottis is a flap of elastic cartilage, kind of the cartilage. When we talk about cartilage, it's like your ear cartilage, or there's some cartilage in your nose that is attached to your voice box or the larynx, and it closes when food passes by. So this is really important. So when you drink and eat, you don't want it to go down the other way to your lungs. And a lot of people say, oh, it went down the wrong tube. Well, they're correct, because the epiglottis evidently didn't close or open as fast as it should have, this causing them to get strangled. Also, your indigestion, and if you have heartburn, sometimes this can hurt the epiglottis because of the stomach acid coming back up. So the epiglottis is both important for the respiratory and the digestive system. So these are some big vocabulary words that we just went over. I know you can't discuss with your partner because you're at home the words pharynx, larynx, and epiglottis. But we're going to talk about where are they located and what is their function in the respiratory system, which one is part of the digestive system too. So, just to review these big vocabulary words, the pharynx is your throat. It's where the nasal and oral cavities kind of come together and they're open. And then the larynx is your voice box. This allows you to be able to talk. If you've ever heard of laryngitis, that's why it's called laryngitis, because it affects your vocal cords and your voice box. And then the epiglottis is the little flap that closes when you eat to let the food go down your digestive system, or open when you breathe in and out to let the air in and out of your body. So which one is part of the digestive system too? So, and there could be multiple answers here. Some people think, the pharynx, where it's your throat, that's part of the digestive and respiratory system. Also, the epiglottis is your part of the respiratory and digestive system, because it kind of is the traffic cop, I guess, to let the food pass through or let the air pass through. It tells which way to go. So the trachea and the bronchus. The trachea is a hollow tube, which is our windpipe, that connects the larynx, your voice box and everything, to the right and left bronchus. The bronchus is the two major air passages leading from the trachea to the lungs. So we have a right and a left lung, so they have to branch off and go to both of those lungs. Then we have the bronchioles. The bronchioles are the branches that branch off the bronchi. These are the smallest air passageways coming off of the bronchi. Out the alveoli, the air sacs that I said at the beginning, in the circulatory system, are like the little raspberries at the end of the bronchioles, where the gas exchange takes place. This is where we talked about, when the bloodstream comes through, it picks up the carbon dioxide out of the blood and lets us breathe it out, but it also, when we breathe in, it allows the O2 to go into the bloodstream. As you can see in this diagram here that's moving, we have a diaphragm. A diaphragm is a sheet of internal skeletal muscle that extends across the bottom of the thoracic cavity. So, if this is a skeletal muscle, what other part of the body systems is it categorized in? If you said the muscular system, you are correct, because it is a muscle. The diaphragm pulls and pushes against the lungs as we inhale and exhale. So if you can see like the lungs that turn blue, we are inhaling, so it goes down. When we breathe out, they're turning like a purplish red, and that the diaphragm is pushing up to help that air go out. It separates our thoracic cavity from our abdominal cavity, so it separates the lungs and the heart from our stomach, intestines, and all that good stuff. The respiratory system, there are diseases of the respiratory system. We are actually looking at one as our pandemic, the COVID-19. They are researching it. They're finding out new things about it every day, so it's not an actual set disease that I can talk about in depth because we're not quite sure about it just yet. But some of the diseases from viruses, these are viruses. These are the influenza, which is the flu, which is getting ready to peak up. That's why everybody has to get their flu shot. The flu shot usually is based on which strand of flu they think is going to be more dominant, and that's what they give out to the population. They don't give the actual strand out. In a vaccination, there is not a live strand. So it does not make you sick like some people believe. But they take the shot and they are building up their antibodies and stuff against it just for that season, just for that section of the flu season. That's why they give it at a certain time every year. I've learned that, my daughter and my son gets the nasal mist for the flu, and that actually has a live virus in them, but their body builds up antibodies to. But it lasts a year. They have to get it every year just like the flu shot, but it lasts longer than the actual shot because of it being a live strand and helping their body naturally build up antibodies to it. Pneumonia and the enterovirus is new in children, and bronchitis. These are usually short term. Diseases of the respiratory system that are more long term or constant. Some diseases are chronic: asthma, bronchitis, emphysema, and COPD. Alright, so as we've talked, the long-term diseases of the respiratory system are the asthma, bronchitis, that can be both, it can be long-term or short-term, emphysema, and COPD, which is chronic obstructive pulmonary disease. Your emphysema and COPD usually goes hand in hand with smokers or secondhand smoke. If you've been around a lot of secondhand smoke, sometimes there are rare cases sometimes that they get that without being a smoker, but that's very rare. Asthma is a lot more common now than it used to be. And then bronchitis, where it's both, it's kind of really hard to tell. But all these can do damages to your respiratory system, which makes it hard for you to breathe and get that alveoli working and switching those gases in and out. Another disease is lung cancer. It's an uncontrolled growth of abnormal cells. So cancer is abnormal cells. It's associated mainly with smoking. There has been people that have gotten it that have not smoked. But like I said, that's rare. It can be caused by secondhand smoke as well. So maybe if you don't smoke yourself, then the secondhand smoke, if you're around it a lot, it can cause it, but it's not as common as if you are a smoker, but secondhand smoke is harmful as well. Lung cancer can cause death, just as many other cancers. Early detection is better than later. Stopping smoking at all or anything harmful, vaping, smoking. I know vaping's becoming bigger now with the younger generation, because it does hinder your respiratory system, and a lot of the vapes hinder your alveoli, and the alveoli, the little raspberry sacs, the air sacs that we talked about, are very important. They are the sacs that, let out the carbon dioxide so we can breathe it out and take in that oxygen to our bloodstream, which is really important for our cells in our body. And if it damages those and it's not getting or not working properly as it did once before, that can be really hard on a person's body. So not only does it affect your lungs and it's hard to breathe, but then your oxygen is not getting to the cells and into the rest of your body. So it starts hindering the other bodily functions as well. What we're going to look at is, can you identify the structure of the respiratory system and its main function? So these are kind of review questions. The respiratory system is made up of your lungs, your larynx, your pharynx, your epiglottis, alveoli, bronchioles, and its main function is to help get oxygen to your body and release that carbon dioxide out of your body. The main organ of the respiratory system is your lungs, even though there are other organs there. The main one is your lungs in the respiratory system. Next week we will be going over the digestive system, which you will see some of these organs in the digestive system as well. If you have any questions about work or your homework, please email me, get on the Google Meets with us, or you can email me and I'll get on a Google Meet just with you. But you have to let me know what's going on, okay? Feel free to email me and call me whenever you need help. I will get to you as soon as possible. We are usually in the building from 8 to 3:15 here, so you can always call the school and get a hold of me, or you can shoot me an email and I'll send you one back and we can get on Google Meet if you need that. But if you have any questions, please let me know, and I hope you have a great rest of your week. Thank you.